Thank you for having me here, and very happy to be back again in Peru for the second time, and again addressing an APEC CEO summit. I think the theme for today, DNA of global growth, is the right one because we're all preoccupied with growth. We've all had a difficult time since the global financial crisis. The crisis is many years ago, but growth has remained subdued since then. Among the developed countries, America has probably done the best of all, but even then, its recovery is weak. In Europe, you face intractable structural problems, stagnant economies, very high youth unemployment. In Asia, I suppose we're not doing badly, but growth is not as strong as it used to be, and even China has slowed down. At the same time, we're seeing a nativist response, a reaction in the developed countries by those who blame globalization and progress for making them worse off. We saw this in the Brexit referendum. We see it in the rise of populist extremist parties in Europe, and of course in the election of Mr. Donald Trump as president in the US most recently. Because some people feel in the country that their lives have not improved. Lower, middle income white voters. Incomes haven't gone up. Thriving industrial towns have become rust belts, and demographic changes have eroded their status in society. So in such an uncertain time, where can we get growth from? I think it's a given that all of us do want to grow. Even for the developed countries, growth is important because it represents economic opportunities and optimism. Because without growth, you have very serious problems. You look at Japan, 20, 25 years of stagnation, at a quite high income level, but even then the loss of optimism, confidence, the sense of malaise is a very troubling and deep-seated one, which can only be overcome if the economy can grow again. For developing countries, growth is even more important because it's a means by which populations can be lifted out of poverty, and people can be optimistic that tomorrow will be better and that my children will have a brighter future than I have had. So I'd like to offer 3 brief points to frame the discussion this morning. 1, that there are parts of the world which are still growing, and Asia is one such bright spot. 2, that we have to continue to exploit and rely on technology and globalization, even as we adapt to its consequences and disruptions. And 3, we have to continue to promote economic cooperation and integration. Let me start with a few words on Asia. We are positive about Asia's fundamentals because the population is young, the economies are developing, boosted by a rising middle class and rapid urbanization. And China is continuing to grow, slower than before nevertheless, but 6.5% is nothing to sniff at. The One Belt, One Road initiative is a promising one which will generate demand and investment in the region and bring the region along as China prospers. India is the other engine under the new Prime Minister, Mr. Modi. It's regained its growth momentum, and it has set off a more competitive dynamic between the different states and regions of the country. So there are ample opportunities in Asia, and I hope that Latin American countries will exploit them. Secondly, we have to exploit technology and globalization because these are still the most effective ways of improving the lives of our people. We can't improve our lives by doing things in the same old ways when better ways have been invented. Lives can only improve when we do things better through new techniques, new scientific discoveries, new products, new ways of working together. Like here in Peru, where companies like MedLife are improving healthcare by using mobile clinics to bring basic healthcare to the less developed areas, so that instead of people going to hospitals, healthcare comes to the people. Or fintech and mobile banking, enabling low-income individuals without borrowing histories to access loans to create more opportunities for themselves. So we have to rely on technology, we have to continue to globalize, but we also have to recognize the disruption that this causes, because there will be winners and losers, and we have to help the losers and help all segments of the population to adjust, which requires the government to have an active policy, whether it's on healthcare, keeping it affordable, whether it's social safety nets, strengthening them, and also making sure that workers have the reassurance that they know help is available even though they are in an uncertain and disruptive environment. Most importantly of all, the governments need to invest in lifelong and continual education so that workers can earn their share of economic growth. Transfers are fine, transfers are necessary, but best of all, if individuals have the skills and can be self-supporting, sustaining, earning their way in the new economy. Because the jobs and the industries will change many times in a worker's life, and workers have to constantly unlearn and relearn new skills to stay relevant. And businesses too have to take a stake in developing and training their workers. And this is an area which Singapore is putting a lot of emphasis on. Thirdly, we have to continue to pursue economic integration. It's the reason we started APEC in the first place, and over the last quarter century. By integrating our economies closer together, APEC has brought prosperity to our economies, boosted growth, generated jobs, made lives better. Economic cooperation covers many areas: human resource development, connectivity, harmonizing regulations, sharing best practices, and of course promoting trade. It's not fashionable now in many developed countries to pursue trade liberalization or free trade, but I still believe that trade liberalization is a win-win proposition and important for getting growth for the world. I know why there's a reaction against the trade agenda and the political difficulties of pursuing a pro-trade agenda. Each country has to make sure that the benefits of trade are shared widely. But while it is difficult to do this, and it is difficult to take dramatic new initiatives in the prevailing climate, we do need to do our best to hold on to the gains which have been achieved and which have taken decades to bring us here. We must not do things which will hurt ourselves, lead to other countries to retaliate, and undo the progress of many decades. The TPP was one of the highest profile major trade initiatives over the last half a dozen years. It may be delayed for now, but there are still other pathways to free trade in the Asia Pacific. For example, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which is an FTA involving countries on the western side of the Pacific Ocean, and other ongoing regional initiatives like the ASEAN Economic Community and the Pacific Alliance, which are all building blocks which will lead towards the ideal of free trade in the Asia Pacific. I know that the sentiments for growth are subdued. Your APEC CEO survey shows this. But in the midst of your worries, we must avoid the tendency to be caught up by the headlines and the sense of uncertainty, and we have to step back, focus on the fundamentals and the bright spots which are there, and push forward to deliver growth and progress for our people. Thank you.